Well, obviously, we had to rearrange our schedule due to the voting situation on Tuesday, where all Pac-12 teams actually can't practice. So we'll practice this evening. Players will come in around 5. We'll have some meetings, and we'll go on the football field around 7 o'clock and have a practice this evening, and then tomorrow we're off, and then we'll get into our routine, obviously, for the rest of the week. Playing USC, not a whole lot to be said about those guys. They're very talented on all sides of the ball. It's kind of interesting. They're playing 2 quarterbacks right now. They're kind of rotating them when you watch them play. Very talented. Drake London, I would like to say for him, my prayers go out to him. He was injured. He's out for the rest of the year. That's a shame. And you hate for any player to be injured, but a guy like that obviously has a lot of potential and is going to play in the National Football League. You hate for that to happen to a guy. And my prayers go out to him, and hopefully he has a speedy recovery. With that being said, obviously the SC game is an important game for us. It's a game in our conference. And we have a lot of players, obviously, from California. This is always kind of one of those games. A lot of these guys know each other. There's always some chippiness, it seems, when these two teams get together. But they're playing well. They're talented. And they're doing a good job of playing offense. They got some really talented players on defense. So we anticipate them coming in here and playing well against us. And we got to start playing well. We got to play a whole game. We can't play in halves. And I think if we can get back to our momentum and get going again, and starts for us early in games. I think we got to get it going early, offensively and defensively, and then just play a full game. We haven't played a full game. We're playing a half of football games, and not going to win like that. And obviously last week, 5 turnovers is very difficult. So that's kind of where it's at. Questions?
Questions? You got 2 mics, if you don't mind helping me pass it around. And Hode, you're the first.
How you doing, Hode?
Good.
How you doing, Hode Rubino, Devil's Digest. Mike Tyson said that everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, and first 3 drives, 3 turnovers, that was probably the punch in the mouth. Is it hard to reconcile that type of performance coming out of the bye week with so much on the line, but as far as the South Championship? I mean, is it something you really can put your finger on after the fact to come out the way you did after a bye week?
I wish I could, but I have no answer for that, except the fact that it happened to us, and we didn't react in a way to give us a chance. And I think it's all about the reaction of what happens to you. How do you handle adversity? And we didn't respond. We kind of responded in the 4th quarter, but then at that point we're in a catch-up mode, and everything is very difficult. So I just think no one wants to start a football game with their 2 possessions, you turn the ball over. I mean, that's not anticipated. That hadn't been the way we performed. But here again, in 2 games, a second half of a football game and a first half of a football game has really been not good, and has given us a way to look at ourselves and say, how do we get that fixed? And that's part of my responsibility, and that's what we got to try to do, get it fixed.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. Obviously, there was a lot of high hopes and expectations for this team, and a lot of that seems like it's not really possible at this point. So how do you get the guys to focus and get them motivated and back up again when what they seemingly had to play for doesn't seem attainable anymore?
Well, I think every week the thing you realize that there's so much put into this. And what you get out of it is the joy of winning a game. And we haven't felt that in 2 weeks. And that's what football is really about. It's about the process of when it starts, of every week you have an opportunity to win a game, and the joy you feel and the accomplishment you feel as a football team to win. And we haven't felt that. We have been on the other side of it, and it doesn't feel good. And there's nothing comfortable about losing, and you can't get comfortable when you lose. You got to have a pit in your stomach. You got to walk around with that pit every day knowing that I want the joy of winning. I want to walk in that locker room again and watch these guys celebrate and watch the joy on their faces. So there's always something to play for. It's to win a game. That's how it works. I mean, it's just goals are fine to have in the beginning of the season, the middle of the season, but the whole deal is, can you win a football game? And we need to find a way to win a game again. So so our fan base can be happy, our players can be happy, everyone can be happy, right? And when you don't win, it becomes depressing for everybody. I mean, no one likes losing, but there's someone gonna lose. That's how it works. And when it's not you, you don't think about it. But now you got to feel it. You got to feel what it feels like. And once they decide to win again, and we can win a game again, they'll get that feeling back. And that's what we got to do. It's that simple. It's really that simple. It's not very difficult. It's that simple.
And Coach, to piggyback off what you're saying about playing a full game, I mean, is there not one thing, but a few things that, like, you guys as a coaching staff, you as a head coach, just kind of put your finger on? Because, like you said, you guys have responded at times when you needed to and got rolling, but just to play that complete game, I guess, what's the sense you get from the team with that?
Well, I think the players understand that. Now we got to go do it. Look, this team has been together basically 3 years for the most part. I'm not going to say 4 because last year was kind of one of those years, right? There's enough of them here that have won a lot of games and important games. We just want to get the feeling back of winning again, of what it feels like to win. And that's what I want them to feel. And I think our coaching staff understands that. We have to be very, very diligent on what we want them to do on offense, defense, and special teams, and make sure they understand those little things. All the little things matter in a football game. And we're not a good enough team to just turn the ball over or, 3 and out on offense and not score on possession. We're not good enough. We're not good enough to do that. And I don't get people say talent. Yeah, talent doesn't. Teams win. And collectively, we can play at spurts. We got to play together as a team again. And that's how our season began. We won games as a football team. And you lose games as a football team. But when you look at how you lose them, you go, well, what happened here? And that's the whole process of the mental state of a team. How do you get them back to feeling the way they felt again when they were winning? And that's my job as a coach. It's the players to respond. And then they got to go do it. They got to execute it on the grass.
Chris Carmen, Son of a Source. To that point, Herm, what can you really say that's different or do necessarily that's going to be different on a day-to-day basis? So how are you handling that with your players?
Well, I think the only thing different is that the fact that you lost 2 in a row, it doesn't feel good. You don't panic. You cannot change your personality all of a sudden because that becomes a red flag. You've been a certain way. I've been a certain way around this place for going on my 4th season now. There's certain things I can say and do, and these guys know how to react to that behind closed doors. But I can't all of a sudden change my personality because it doesn't work for me, and then it sets off a bad signal to the players. Because they're saying, well, why is Coach doing that now, right? I mean, we've had some seasons here where we lost a couple games and we found our way back. We got to find our way back again. And once we do, then we'll get in the groove again. And that's my job to figure that out. But as far as changing what we do and all these other things, I think that's you do that to the players, and they're looking around going, uh-oh, what just happened here? What are we doing, right? Can't do that. We got to be consistent in how we teach them. Sometimes less is more. That's what I truly believe. I say sometimes you might be trying to do too much, and you need to get back to simplifying things and just doing things where they can play free, and there's not a lot of thinking in it. Just because you have a veteran team, that doesn't mean you add more to their plate. Sometimes you have to take away some stuff and say, hey, let's just do this. And I think if we get back to what we need to do, that'll give us a better opportunity to win.
Kent Summers, Arizona Republic.
Yes, sir.
When Ray, right before Ray hired you 4 years ago, he said the goals were to be top 15 and in major bowls regularly.
Yeah.
How close are you to that, do you think, as a program?
Well, this is our 3rd season, and you guys have to figure that out. I mean, that's not for me to say. That's you guys, because you guys write. You guys have opinions, and that's up to you guys to say. I know one thing: the Rose Bowl team was here. When was that? 25 years ago. So that's how hard it is. Okay? It's that hard. There are a lot of good coaches that have coached here. It's hard. Football's hard. It's not easy. It's just everything has to come together. You know, and we had an opportunity this year, and we still have an opportunity to accomplish a lot of things, in my opinion. That's just my opinion as a head coach. And that's what the team understands. We need to get bowl eligible. That's kind of important. We need to figure that out, how to do that. Right? And so all those things are still in front of us. And I just think that, you know, if it was easy, it would just happen. And it doesn't happen that way. There's a lot of highs in it, and there's some lows in it. Right now we're low, and we got to get out of it. We want to feel better. We want everybody to feel better. But it's part of the process, and you know it, and you have to live with it. And I've done this a long time, and I've seen it, and you go, okay, how we get out of it? And that's what we got to find our way out of it.
Doug Haller with The Athletic. Herm, after Saturday's game, Zach Hill said that the leaders need to kind of raise the standard in practice. During your time, what ingredients do you look from the leaders of a football team that kind of have that sort of impact in the locker room?
Well, I think that how they go about their business in the meeting rooms, practice, and we'll do some things structurally in practice a little bit different that I've changed up. You know, I think it could be more competitive. It needs to be more competitive in practice. When you get to a point to where you look at it, you go, okay, I can help them if we do this. And so that's what we'll do. We'll become more competitive in things we do and put them in position where they got to compete. The ones against the ones a lot of times, the ones against, just the good against the good. And I think sometimes that gets them in a mode of, okay, this is what it feels like. Rather than one period of, let's do this now. Let's get back to almost like training camp. But not the physical part, but just athletes against athletes and make them compete more. And I think that's what we got to do. And the feeling of, okay, you know, this guy's as good as me, and if he won that play, I got to win the next play, whatever. We got to get into that a little bit more. And the leaders on the team are the leaders. I mean, some of them are vocal, some of them are not. But at the end, we're all in this together. And that's the great part about our football team. These guys are together. They're together. They're going to play for each other. The coaches are going to try to put them in position so they can play well. And that hasn't changed through the two losses. You know, I can remember the loss after BYU. You know, everybody was like, uh-oh, we found our way. And we'll find our way again. That's the goal. Find your way back again. And if you win a game, you'll feel a lot better. And everybody will feel a lot better.
Brittany Boyer, PHNX Sports. Now, when you first sat down, you mentioned how big of a deal this upcoming game is against USC this week with how many kids on the roster are from California. When you played UCLA, you and the boys both talked about how you were able to make it personal, you know, with preparing for the game this week. So being that you're playing USC, coupled with, you know, that want to feel that winning feeling again, how is that impacting the mentality going into practice this week for the boys?
Well, I think I'll call them men, if you don't mind. I can't call them what you just said, because I'll get in trouble. But I think they realize that. This is just the way it is. When you play a team close to your backyard, even though they're in California, I get it, but they're in your conference, you play them every year. This is what happens, and you understand it. When you play the teams in our conference is one thing, but when you play the LA teams, because we have so many kids from Los Angeles, they've grown up with these guys. They played Pop Warner football with them, high school football with them, so they know who they are, you know, and they're probably, you know, texting each other week prior to the game, you know, all what they do. I don't know what they do because I don't pay attention to it, but that's the fun part of it. You know, that's the rivalry part of it, right? When you come from the same state and you play against high school, some of these guys are your teammates. You're just giving each other the business now, right now, this week.
Nick King from 3TV CBS 5. Right here.
Oh, Nick, I see you. Okay. Sorry.
You mentioned how a couple times about, you know, you guys need to win for everybody to feel good,
Yeah.
including the fans. Are you able to sense that frustration? Were you able to hear some of the boos on Saturday?
Oh, sure. And that's part of it, though. I mean, remember, I played in Philadelphia. Right? So, yeah, fans are invested in their teams. They have a right to be angry and be frustrated. But the great part about them, they'll come back this week and then they'll come in here and they'll be hollering for the Sun Devils. We get that. We don't ever take that personal. I mean, you can't. I mean, you know, that's the great part about being in an arena. I'd rather for people to come in here and get their anxiety and get mad and let it out and be done with it. You know, and be done with it. And now this week we get another opportunity and hopefully they can leave here and you know, we win a football game, they'll be excited, right? But I don't take that stuff personal. I've walked in too many arenas as a coach, as a player, and I grew up in one of the best arenas ever to be in Philadelphia. You know, and so you get it. And you don't take it personal. You just understand that that's part of it. Mm-hmm.
What do you think are the proper calibrations for expectations at ASU under you right now?
Well, I think that they are to try to win our conference. I said that when I first got here, and be competitive in the conference. And I mean, except for last year, the COVID year, I mean, I think we've been pretty competitive in the conference, and we haven't won enough games, and that's what we got to do. And that's always been. I stated that when I first got here. Let's be competitive enough in this conference where we can look back and say, hey, man, we got a chance. And I think our players have realized that. Every year we're going to have a chance. And that's the goal. And then from there, it takes care of itself, right? If you win the conference, it takes care of itself. You don't have to set any more goals. You know what's going to happen. But that has to be it. It's no different than in the NFL when you're in a certain conference, in a division, you look at your division and go, okay, I'm in the NFC East or I'm in the AFC West. These are the teams. I'm going to play them twice. You know, how do I stack up? How do I compete? Because until you can compete in your conference and be competitive and be in games, it's hard. It's hard. You know, you got to be able to do that. And then once you can do that, then everything else takes care of itself. So that's how I look at it, to be quite honest. Well, I think the veterans on the team, their expectations were high like all of ours because they decided to come back. And I think I think it's a learning lesson. You know, the BYU situation was different than Utah, and they're all three different situations, in my opinion, just as a coach. That's just the way I look at it. But they're all unique situations. Two of them have been on the road, obviously. One of them was at home, where you turn the ball over 5 times and you get 24 points. That's hard to. Did I think that? When I walked out there, I didn't see that coming. I don't think anybody. I don't think the players did either. No one saw it coming. It just happened. Okay, now what do you do? Right? And I think that how we respond going forward, I think, is the most important thing. Are we learning anything from this? Because if we don't, then we find ourselves back into that, and we don't want to get into that. And there'll be some highs and lows in this game. And how we respond, I think, is very important. You know, because this is a very talented team, and we know that. And they're never going to be out of the game because they have enough playmakers on both sides of the ball that can change the game. And so you got to be aware of that when you play them. And I think our guys understand that. We just got to go compete and play a full game, not halves and quarters. We got to play a whole full game. And if you do that, then you feel better about yourself. Then you give yourself a chance. We haven't given ourselves a chance in 2 of our last games, to be quite honest. Yes, sir.
Sean Lynch from the State Press. Herm, you said last week you wrote letters to some of the captains in regards to the previous game. Are you going to do anything similar this week?
You know, I'll visit with certain guys on the team, guys that have leadership qualities, you know, and the guys that I can lean on. And there's been a few guys I've spoken to already. And they're doing it on their own, too, though. Like the good part, they're coming in tonight. And there's been a lot of guys already in the building. And so they're disappointed. They're a disappointed group. And they don't like being in this situation. And I said the only way you can clean it up is win. Then you're not in the situation anymore. Then you don't have to worry about it. But we're in the situation, and we got to find our way out. And I'm betting on my players. I'm betting on they're going to play, and we're going to find their way out of this. And my coaching staff. That's what I'm betting on.